So, with the Death Battle Kickstarter coming to an end, it's about time we start discussing what episode I think should be the rematch episode. And that episode is, of course, Mewtwo VS Shadow. I brought this up in my last video and multiple times on Twitter, link in the description, and I genuinely think that Mewtwo vs. Shadow is the matchup that deserves it the most for a myriad of reasons. I mean, the episode and the production were a total mess, the analysis was painfully boring and didn't really cover either story in a satisfying way, the animation was rushed due to the animator dealing with a lot of stress and poor living conditions at the time, and Takahata 101 was specifically told to act poorly as Shadow as a reference to Sonic Adventures 2's voice acting. Now, I don't care if it is supposedly a reference, you should never ask an actor to intentionally act poorly. So, with all that in mind, you can see why I want this episode to get the rematch treatment, right? No? Okay, let me go into more details, like how the matchup itself is still really good, with both being man-made bioweapons who were developed with government funding intended to help cure a disease for a young girl, who they form bonds with until the girl who showed them kindness passes away, leading to their memories being suppressed by those who created them. They then escape and run amok until their memories resurface, leading to them becoming good guys and defending the people of their respective worlds. Hell, this was even a part of that Mewtwo chart that Ben made when discussing a potential matchup for Mewtwo in Death Battle. Like, come on. Not only that, but I think that the fight could have a pretty good dynamic, given that both characters have a very different power set to play off of each other. I mean, they do share some powers, like teleportation, barriers, and super forms, but outside of that, Mewtwo has his psychic abilities, like its telekinesis, telepathy, precognition, etc., and Shadow has his chaos powers and super speed, and of course, the Doom abilities, like Doom Morph, Doom Surf, Doom Wings, and so on and so forth. There really is a lot of new stuff to cover. Heck, if you want to get really into it, give Mewtwo both its mega forms, like in the manga, and have it switch between them for both close range and long range combat. And I know what a lot of you are going to say. Oh, this is going to be Shadow's 4th episode, or oh, Mewtwo should totally fight Black War Greymon instead, or insert episode here should be the rematch instead, and all that jazz. But here's the thing. For starters, I don't think that a character should have a limit to how many times they can return. Characters are always going to get matchups, and people will always want to see said matchups. We shouldn't limit a character to 3 to 4 times on the show just because they've been on it enough. The best way we can get around this so we don't have an animation rewind situation on our hands is use a character every few years or so. That way the audience doesn't get burned out. And this is only if they have a really, really good matchup worth covering, like Mewtwo vs. Shadow. Plus, Shadow was gonna get another episode eventually because a lot of people want Archie Shadow, but if you don't want to count him because he's a different version, then Game Shadow would only be getting 4 episodes while Archie Shadow gets 1. Plus, it's a rematch. It's gonna replace the first one anyway, so doesn't really matter. I also get wanting to see Mewtwo fight a different character and not the same character for a second time. It's basically how I feel about the idea of Mario vs. Sonic 3. Having 2 characters fighting each other for a third time, it is a little boring, especially since we already know how their power sets play off of each other. Well, we don't really have that problem with Mewtwo vs. Shadow because the animation did a very bad job at showing that. Again, by no fault of the animator. They were living under pretty rough conditions at the time, so. But yeah, I totally get that. I understand that. I have no defense or a counter or anything like that for that argument. I 100% understand. And in regards to the idea of other matches getting the rematch treatment, I'm not against it, but I feel like we should choose very, very carefully, and here's why. If people wanted to pick something like Beast vs. Goliath, or I don't know, that's just the one that comes to mind because I actually wouldn't mind seeing that again. That's fine. But a vast majority of the community is going to choose Chief vs. Slayer. I accept that. I understand that Shadow vs. Mewtwo most likely isn't going to win. That being said, I don't think we should jump the gun and just go for Chief versus Slayer, just so we can see Slayer rip Chief a new asshole like 20 seconds now into the fight. I'm not saying that's gonna happen. We're not gonna have like a freaking Deku versus... Actually, we might... Shit, we might have like a bunch of Doom fans saying, oh, why didn't Doomslayer just like immediately one-shot Chief? Which, I'm sorry, oh my god, anyway. I'm not saying that's gonna happen in the fight, because it won't. But I am going to say that it's gonna be another Omnilander situation, where one character gets absolutely dog-washed. Like, I don't think Master Chief has like a single advantage over Doomslayer. He's infinitely slower, infinitely weaker, has infinitely less hacks, and his weapons aren't even comparable. It is a complete and utter stomp in one side's favor. Now, of course, you could make the argument that Death Battle will most likely lowball the Slayer to make it more fair, which is fine. They can do that. They've done it before. But that would be like you doing Kratos versus Ashura without using God of War lore. A part would just be missing. Not only that, but I don't think that the fight dynamic would be as good as Mewtwo vs. Shadows. I mean, a majority of their arsenal is a shit ton of guns, energy swords, and grenades. Plus the Sentinel Hammer for the Slayer. And also, if you want to give Chief all of the vehicles in Halo and stuff like that, but I'm not really sure. A lot of the fight would just be them running around and shooting each other until Chief dies. Because he's gonna die. And a lot of people just want this match, want Chief versus Slayer, just so it can be done right. At least with Mewtwo vs. Shadow, the characters have different power sets to play off of each other in different ways. You can have them using their different moves to their full potentials. Maybe Shadow uses Doom Wings to keep up with Mewtwo's flight in his base form, or Doom Morph to maneuver around the battlefield easier. Or you can have Mewtwo constantly swapping Mega Forms, as I said before, to keep up with Shadow at all ranges. You can even have him use moves like Power Swap or Guard Swap on Super Shadow to gain Shadow's invulnerability that he has in his Super Form. There's a lot more you can do here, and that's just off the top of my head. If I have to really think about it, I feel like I'd be here for an hour. Anyway, it was just this little short video on why I'm going to be voting for Mewtwo vs. Shadow to be the rematch. You guys don't have to. If you want to, you can. But, do what you guys. Vote what you want. If you want to vote for, I don't know, Ben 10 versus Green Lantern 2, go ahead. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video from me. I know a lot of people probably won't like what I have to say, especially towards the end about Chief vs. Slayer, but I just really wanted to show my support for Mewtwo vs. Shadow. I know a large majority won't like this because I'm giving my opinion on the internet. Ooh, scary. But, you know, I don't care. The least I can do is rep the underdog in this situation, knowing that Chief vs. Slayer is gonna win. It's gonna win, guys. If you want to show your support for Mewtwo vs. Shadow, however, please use the hashtag Mewtwo vs. Shadow for Death Battle Rematch. If we can't win, the least we can do is put eyes on us. Also, please be civil when discussing what matchup we should vote for. The last thing we need is people getting harassed over this. With all that in mind, I'll see you later, Cap Nation. Have a good day.